about to.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey everyone, how's it going? We're joined by Frank Fazer today in the form of Josh and myself. We're going to be going through some awesome stuff with the new prototype and answering your questions. So I'm going to check real quick to see if we've got some people in here and mute myself so I don't go crazy. But yeah, we're gonna, we've been working on this prototype for the last month or so since the last one. We've got some cool things that we're going to be showing you. Things I'm excited because there's some really cool stuff. And I think this morning we had several questions come in. Sorry, I'm just working through some technical difficulties on my end, but we had several questions come in. I think there's only a few people in the Twitch right now, so we're gonna wait for some more people to show up, and then we'll get started in about 2 minutes. So good seeing everybody, and looking forward to talking through some cool stuff that we've been working on and answering the questions that you guys asked.
Have some fun. Happy Friday, everybody. Give me your money. Frank Fazer. Happy Halloween for those that celebrate it. We're in October.
All right, well, I think we'll get started. Sorry, I have a bad echo coming through, and I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Mute your Twitch, maybe?
Yeah, I muted my Twitch.
And your Discord?
Got Discord muted. I don't know where the echo's coming from.
It could be coming from me hearing you through my screen.
Oh, that's possible. That could, but that's not gonna. I don't know if we're gonna be able to fix that.
Yeah, we can't fix that. Then I couldn't hear you.
All right, I'll just try to deal with the echo. So anyways, we've got Josh is going to jump into the prototype right now. We're on our temporary loadout screen, which is something that we've been working on. This will eventually become our primary interface for getting into the game. So the menus are going to change, the graphics are going to change, but this is something we've been working on in terms of getting an initial loadout screen that will be used to get into the game. And there's some more elements to this that we'll reveal over time. But if you take a look and pay attention, you can kind of speculate over some of the stuff that's on here and what it's going to mean once we actually get into the game. So Josh, why don't you jump in?
All right, let's do this.
So one of the things right off the bat you can see is Josh is actually playing with one of his Legionnaires. We've been working on, getting this system and using a prop right now that hasn't been finalized yet, but he's showing you guys the one of the abilities. Josh, you want to talk a little bit about that ability?
Yes, so we're going to have different abilities associated with different weapon type categories So we'll have some abilities associated with the bludgeoning category with blunt weapons. So the mace, for example. Let's get some kill some enemies with this. Hang on, let me get to it. We're working on a lot of the stuff still right now about enemy placement and a lot of work that's been going on is back end stuff. We do have some new levels coming up that we'll be able to show you, but this is still early, animation and effect wise, but a lot of just placeholder stuff in here to get the systems going. You have a cooldown timer up there. Oh, it crashed. No, crashes. Okay, well, I guess that can happen. I'll have to relaunch real quick.
The defenders of Fiat got us again.
Let's get back in here. Let's do this. So, here we go. So, as you can see, the level's totally different because one of the things that when you're running through something that's a roguelike, you want to have variety and not have you be starting kind of at the same level all the time. So, we're going to have rooms or these stages that will be rooms that will be pieced together per stage. So it'll keep some variety as you're moving through the game. But we were talking about abilities before. Let's find our green door. So as you can see here with the this one is like an AOE ability. So I don't know, I can speak a little bit, but you're going to get we'll basically have a string of AOE abilities. Without getting into too much detail there. Then we'll have other abilities that work differently, have different effects that are more, cone abilities out in front of you, and then we have like other for the axe, which is not in just yet, more heavier single target damage abilities. So you can, kind of the goal of this is that you'll be training and leveling up different weapons and ability types and kind of unlocking a bunch of different stuff and learning a bunch of different things as you continue to play through the game and level up your character. And then when you start a run, it's player choice, and you kind of do your loadout and figure out how you want to mix and match and combine weapons with abilities with I hesitate to say the other thing because I don't know if we've announced it yet, so I'm not going to say that yet. Other types of items that we may or may not have already told everybody about. Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff going on right now. It's now honestly hard for me to keep track of what we haven't said and what we can say.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. So
yes, exactly. So I'll let Nick speak to all that.
Yeah, we can definitely answer questions. Josh just likes to give spoilers, which I don't like. I don't want to. I mean, there's a balance there. We don't want to spoil things, but we do want to give you guys answers to any questions you have. So we're going to be showing you bits and pieces of things, and Josh will lead the game alpha. But I think we had some good questions in the Discord today, so I can jump into some of those, but also feel free to put questions in the chat. Josh, by the way, I'm just watching your Twitch stream right now because I think you dropped the other. The Discord stream, but I'm seeing it by battle and stuff. There's not much lag.
Oh, you set up in Discord?
So yeah, so I guess one question, actually there's a few questions, and the first one that we heard, so I guess Demi's saying that we're not hearing ourselves very well with the music. The music might be overpowering right now over the sound. I don't know, Josh, if there's anything you can do about that.
That
But,
the music in the game is the sound of the game is too high.
I think the sound music might be overpowering. Um, but yeah, so I think one of the first questions was kind of the big one, right? About tokenomics and for the Satoshiverse and how Legionnaires are going to work into everything. And that's something we've talked about, several times, I think, during these sorts of meetings. And we've gone through a little bit, but it's something we can definitely talk about again. One of the things that we've been really thinking through from a tokenomics perspective is kind of the sustainability of the tokenomics and in-game economy infrastructure, something that can persist, right? Something that won't be kind of speculative. And, I think, unfortunately, what we've seen over the last 2 years is that a lot of projects kind of release a white paper, release a token, and they just, throw out, this is what it's going to do, this is what it's going to do, but there's really no test case, there's really no ability to see, okay, is a token, where is a token needed, how does this work? And so one of the things that we've been trying to do, with the way that we're thinking through both fungible and non-fungible within our ecosystem, is identifying kind of the use case and the role that that token would play within the ecosystem before actually releasing it. And so I think one of the good examples of this is our Satoshi's crystals, which is going to be essentially the main, I would say, token in terms of how holding, Legionnaires and Angel Army avatars are going to give you benefits in the world, other than several other benefits that we're working on specifically for those avatars. We have this tokenomics, quote unquote, system around not just the items in the game, right? So we've talked about that. We've talked about how, the items that you find and fabricate and upgrade are going to be NFT items. And so you'll have kind of what you would think through in the traditional RPG setting, where you're playing the game, you're finding items. Those items are going to unlock new abilities, and I'm going to cut because Josh is getting dangerously close to revealing way too much alpha. But yeah, so there's something significant behind those rumors, but we're not going to show it just yet. So now that Frank Fazer is here in the chat, I got to be extra careful with what he shows. But yeah, so we were talking about the tokenomics, and I think that it's important to have a use case for each thing. So, for example, in terms of the tokens, the NFTs, you're going to have different resources, which Josh mentioned before. Those resources will be used directly to create items and other things that will power up your avatar permanently. I think what you'll have in addition to that is you'll have blueprints, which will allow you to create some of the rarest items in the game. Those will also require resources. So as you collect the resources, you'll be able to use those resources with the blueprints to create the top items in the game. Beyond that, you'll have, let's see, there will be in-game abilities to earn upgraded versions of weapons by using resources. So as you train your character in-game, you'll earn in-game resources that aren't NFTs, but then that will allow you to, by having a higher level avatar and having higher training levels, you'll be able to create better items and upgrade your items. But one of the things that we really wanted to do with the tokens themselves, and actually, if you want a deeper dive into this, we went into it quite extensively on our Twitter Spaces yesterday when we were talking about tokenomics and game economies. But I think that one of the things we're really focused on is making sure that items don't become obsolete. And so one of the things that we're doing is finding ways for you to upgrade your items finding ways for you to use your items as resources for even better items. So different things that we're thinking through to make sure that, unlike a traditional RPG where sometimes you just see items on the ground and you ditch them or whatever it might be, these items are all meaningful and they're all used in a way to be complementary to each other, and it creates kind of a persisting need for even the items that you find early on in the game, which I think is going to make this pretty unique and really different from a lot of the existing games that have player economies. But then, I think the big thing is our crystals, our Satoshi's crystals, right? By owning Legionnaires, by owning 8 Mo Army avatars, you'll be able to stake those avatars and earn a certain amount of crystals um, on a given period, and those crystals will be used for a ton of different things within the game. So you'll need, as just some examples, you'll need to use those crystals to create the best items. You'll need those to use those crystals to upgrade the best item. Those crystals will give you boosts to your avatar. You can kind of cut through some of like the grind and the training using those crystals. You'll be able to do certain things with item stats using those crystals for those of you who like min-maxing and trying to create like the best version of an item. Those crystals we're looking at uses for those crystals in terms of your avatar and kind of changing certain aspects of your avatar. But the idea is, even though it's a ERCL 55 NFT, the crystal will serve as the core utility NFT within the ecosystem. So the crystals are going to be very important. When it comes to ERC20, which I think is it's fair that people want to know about that. I think my view, and I think what we've observed over the past several years now with projects, is that ERC20 tokens really only work if you've got a an ecosystem that supports them, right? Like there's more than just speculation behind them. And sure, you can have a big market cap and swings and trading and all that, even if you don't, if just with speculation. But our goal, and I think a lot of the people who've been in the community know that that we're not looking to create kind of speculative value. We're really trying to create real value, and everything needs to have a place. And so, an ERC20 token is definitely on our minds. It's definitely part of our plans. It's something that we're definitely considering. We would need to have the right use case for it, and I think the obvious one is some sort of digital currency within the ecosystem, something that has utility within the ecosystem, acts as a means of trade and whatnot within the ecosystem. But of course, there's laws and regulations and everything when that comes into place. So we really want to be, has built that infrastructure to make sure it's very clear that this is the role of speculative, based on something that we're doing as a company. This is something that you directly use to do things within our ecosystem. And that's not to say that it's necessarily going to happen. I think there's definitely an argument to be made that there's enough ERC20 tokens, and Ethereum and Bitcoin and whatnot are just fine as currencies within ecosystems built on them. And so I think there's, I would say that when it comes to ERC20, we definitely haven't ruled it out, but we also, haven't said that it's going to be something that we're definitely doing. I think that right now we're building a lot of this economy and the holder incentives around the crystal, because we think that that's actually a better method, because it allows kind of the direct peer-to-peer exchange that we would be looking for, rather than like liquidity pools and all that stuff with with what you would have with a ERC20 token, or exchange listings and all that kind of speculative superficial stuff. We want to kind of get right down to the utility layer, and so we're using the ERC55 in order to do that, because we think the infrastructure is better there for what we're trying to achieve. And so that's kind of the starting point of tokenomics. I'll I guess we can get back to this. It sounds like we're having sound problems again. Gosh, I don't know if there's anything we can do to Yeah. No, I think it's okay. I think if is there a way for you to mute the game sound, Josh? Would you be able to mute the game sound? No, it's I'm losing you then. Okay. Can everybody
And
still
they
hear
might
me?
not be able to hear me. I turned my mic off to try to, you know, reduce some background chatter or anything. But
Let's see if we are getting right now. Okay, I'm getting. We can hear you both, so we're still there.
all right,
Is the music still
I
loud
turned the
enough
music back
time?
on to test it.
All
I
right.
turned.
Gaming sound is on. But can you still hear us, or is it too loud?
I mean, yeah, it's all connected. I died.
Okay, so they're saying it's oh, Josh died. He wasn't paying. Okay, so I'll keep going. I'm actually speaking quite loudly, so I can't. I'd be screaming if I if I talked any louder. But I think it's just the sound is coming in. So yeah, so I guess just, Excalibur. Just to answer your question, I think what I was actually saying wasn't so much about what chain it's on, but whether or not we would have a fungible currency. Whether it makes sense to have a fungible currency. I think what you're going to start to see is a lot of projects aren't. I mean, I think what projects were predominantly doing with fungible currencies early on was using it as a funding resource to build their projects without really knowing what the use for that fungible currency would be. And I guess what I was saying before is that we're currently building the utility layer and the tokenomic layer for the game using crystals, which is a non-fungible ERC 1155. And that's going to be the core utility and tokenomic layer currently. But whether and how we introduce a fungible currency, really if we introduce a fungible currency, will depend on how this develops in the system for an in-game currency, or whether we think and hope that the current structure that we are designing with USC 1155 as the base, form of utility resource, more of a resource than a currency, is fine, and then that currencies that already exist can be used as a means of trading. So I think that that's the big thing that we are experimenting with. Yeah. So the ERC, the crystals are going to be 1155s, which I mean, theoretically, 1155s are kind of fungible anyways, even though they're non-fungible tokens. So that we can leave that for a different day on the technical aspects, but they're going to be 1155s, and you'll get, you'll have art and metadata, but the main difference between 1155 and a ERP20 in terms of like fungibility and liquidity is how they're exchanged, right? And so 1155s have a more peer-to-peer NFT setup. The ERC20 is obviously on exchanges and whatnot. And so we are thinking about these more as resources than a currency. They have basically the resources that have direct utility within the game, and they let you do stuff within the game. And I think that is where we're going to start. And then whether or not an in-game currency in the form of a cryptocurrency is necessary or even wanted, I think is something that is on the table, but it's something that we want to release the environment and see the economy as it persists, because we definitely don't think it's necessary. I think it's something that could serve a role and could be exciting and something that we're definitely going to look at. But I think that, as currencies go, there's good arguments that currencies can just be currencies that are so I think, the more projects that build their own currency, the less use cases there are for the currencies that exist for projects that are building on the system. And so I think early on, we'll definitely continue to support Ethereum as a means of exchange. I think we've looked into wrapped Bitcoin as a means of exchange. Obviously, we're currently on building on the Ethereum blockchain and side chains or layer twos of Ethereum. So we're not currently building on Bitcoin or Lightning, but having Bitcoin as a currency is something we've looked into and considered on Ethereum. So there's a lot there in terms to unpack in terms of tokenomics. I guess the other thing to say is that that is very fluid, right? We don't know what the landscape is going to look like for years and 20 tokens. We don't know what the regulatory landscape is going to look like. So what we're doing is we're planning the information we have in front of us, doing the best job we can to balance everything at play, and really doing what we think is going to create a sustainable in-game economy for this game. Because I think at the end of the day, that is the goal with the game. I think Satoshiverse, more broadly, I think there will be some interesting opportunities to operate outside of the Ethereum, network, and there could be some interesting things. But no, what I'm saying is that Bitcoin and Ethereum are good means of exchange. They won't be, obviously, we won't be giving away Bitcoin or Ethereum. I wouldn't say obviously. Who knows? Maybe there'll be prizes one day or something that makes it better. But at least for now, our tokenomic structure is built on finding items in the game, finding resources in the game, and those resources include our kind of utility resource, which is crystals. And if you want to learn more about kind of the holder benefits of precious crystals, at least the ones that we've released so far, we're working on several others, that you can find on the website, on our game website. And so yeah, that's the first question. That was a really long answer. Sorry about that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the prototype? Switch back a little bit. Tell people what you're doing. That was one question. Yeah, I want to go deeper. Oh, they're saying they can't hear you.
There we go. I had my mic off.
I feel like it's like the Verizon guy. Can you hear me now? Well, I just almost had a heart attack because they have a fire alarm system in my building and they come out and go loudspeaker. And yeah, that was fun. If the alarms go off, I'll mute myself again. They picked a bad time. I'm telling you, man, there's someone out to get us on these streams. It seems like every time someone hits us with something.
So, one thing I'll speak to is that, right now, as we finish getting all of our systems in, we're, transitioning to using them more for design. Oh, nice. T-pose. So, the way the enemies are laid out, with the enemy AI, the puzzle of, how you get through the level and choices and just all those things are not in yet. So, really what you see right now is, our ability to kind of play through some of our assets, as we kind of get things hooked up. And a lot of what you see, in terms of, VFX and animations and things like that, those are all early or placeholder. So things will continue to get iterated on and come together and get polished. So, all games are like this early on. You don't just go from nothing to a super awesome looking, perfect, polished game. It's all a process of building these different layers that use each other. So we have all these stat systems and item systems and ability systems, and we'll actually be able to show you some more enemies soon. I won't say much more than that. But we have all the behind the scenes work going on there before they get dumped in. So these are just like placeholder enemies so that we can test specific systems that require you to meet certain criteria. For example, like I mentioned before, I cannot leave this space that I'm in right now until I clear the enemies that are in this room. So you go into a room and you can see that again this is temp. The UX and the UI are all temp as well. The map is temp. All these things that are here are temp. Like it's just so that we can get something in there to connect with the system that's behind it, and then we can circle back and add additional artwork to that layer and position things correctly and start to make things work together. So we just have like lists and lists of tasks and assets and things that all these people in our team are all creating, and then we hook them together and it's a big complex process. So right now I'm just trying to clear this level so that I can unlock the doors and get to another space. But right now this is one of our earlier rooms that that we had finished. You guys have seen this one in other streams, and there's bugs in here too. Oh, speaking of bugs, so that's early as well. But let's see, where's the?
I don't know if you can kill it right now.
I have to find. There's
that one's funny because all the materials are all messed up.
Well, the animation's not there. Yeah, there's no stuff down here. There's a hidden
multicolored drone right now. That's so eventually that'll be the drone that you guys have seen in the different previews that we've posted. But one of the things I'm learning, because and it's interesting to kind of have more of a gamer and consumer perspective as we're going through a lot of these prototypes, is things tend to happen from a systems perspective much earlier, and then the art starts to pile in right at the end. So they're kind of worked on somewhat disjointedly. Like we've got the art team, we've got 20-some people working on the art of the game, and then we've got the devs that we've got working on putting all the systems in. And so the systems look kind of not, I wouldn't say private, but like they look very unrefined until they don't, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's how all this comes together, right? And it's funny because I've been having these kind of aha moments going through the prototype in small doses where with some of the earlier systems when they came in, it was like, what is this? It doesn't look like it, doesn't feel like it, but somewhere on the back end, somewhere on the front end, it's all connecting. Then you drop the art on it and the animations and connect all the wires together, and boom, you've got a video game. And so I'm excited kind of because I think we're getting to that point where a lot of the systems are in the game, and it's starting to be more about dropping the art in and connecting the dots between the art and those systems. And so I think in the next month to 2 months, what we're going to start to see is really visual upgrades to the game. You'll start to see the different systems more visually represented. The UI will improve. The loadout screens will improve. We're working on cinematics. We're working on a lot of stuff that is going to just make it feel and look like this really cool video game that you guys are all expecting. And so, when the card game releases, we'll I'm just kidding. We'll have something I think that you guys are really special. But at the same time, it's just going to be the first step in a very long process of creating this together. I think one of the coolest things about what we're building is that what we are building, is the rails, right? We're building the systems, we're building that first step, we're building that first iteration. And what you're seeing now is not even that. It's the ground layer, right? It's the behind the scenes development, the step one to building a game. And our goal is to release in alpha something that you guys can interact with, that you can kind of see the vision, you can see where this is going, help us test, you can help us identify the bugs, you can have conversations about directions for different things like attacks and abilities and lore and items and all these different things. For me, that's what's really exciting. I think all of us are really excited to kind of have that collaborative experience. So come December, it's not going to look like what it'll look like 2 or 3 years from now if everything continues down the path we're going. It's going to look like, the basic rails for a really awesome game. And I think that as a gamer, that's going to be a really unique experience, right? It's almost going to be as if you're part of that test group that, we usually only come into like private rooms at, studios where, you don't get to see that version of the game. Usually the company will spend 3-4 years to make sure it's totally polished and great, everything works perfectly before they release it into the public. That's not what this is going to be. That's going to be, it's quite the opposite. What we think is that, the way that we can develop this with all of you is by building the framework, right? Because at the end of the day, that's just something that has to be built. We have to build some of the environments, we have to build some of the lore, and we have to get it going down a path. And I think, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns down that path, and that's where I'm excited to have, all the community members really participating in helping us determine where it goes. And for me, that's why we are going to be, you'll see over the next couple months leading up to the alpha, and then shortly after it, you'll see that we're going to be starting to implement more means and forums for community participation, right? The reality is, for the last 6 months after, even counting the in Army, we've really just been in the heads down development phase, right? Because things take time to develop. And so what we've been getting to is, what is our MVP? What can we put out there so that people understand what we're building and can really meaningfully participate in where this is going long term? And I think that's where we're excited, and we think we're going to be able to get there. So that's what we're building towards right now. I think that, what you're going to see in terms of the quality of the game, the improvements, I'm excited because it's just going to keep getting better. It's going to start with something where you guys will say, oh, this is different than other games we've seen out there. These do have really great graphics. There is awesome art. There is cool gameplay. It is fun. You can earn stuff in a very fluid way. And that's all going to be there. But where it goes is just going to be, it really is going to depend on what those conversations that we have. And sure, we have a plan. We're implementing things. We're working on the art side. We're working on the lore side. We're working on the item side. But part of that plan is to have enough flexibility so that we can, pivot a little bit and make certain decisions after we get feedback. Because you all are going to be that initial layer of what is this? What do I like? What do I not like? Right? Because we don't have, an 100-person test group. You are that test group. And so for me, hopefully that'll be exciting. We think it's going to be exciting as developers to be able to build a game that way. I don't think that very many games are built that way. I think most of the time you've got professional testers testing within a professional testing environment. Josh could talk more to that, but I think it's going to present some really cool opportunities to do things a little bit differently, where you guys are stakeholders within the ecosystem, and I think that as that, we want to make sure that what we're building is something that you all think is valuable and enjoy, and is going to progress the space in a meaningful way. So Josh, why don't we show them some of like the cool little details, like some of this graffiti, and I think what we can talk about. Why don't we go over? I thought I saw a Shizuku, a Shizuku graffiti somewhere down there. We haven't talked about Shizuku yet, so this will be some alpha coming, and Shizuku. Where are we? I think we've got, Shizuku is the name of the first gang. It means family. It translates to family of death, This is some lore alpha for you guys. Basically what we're developing out is, we've got the Outskirts, which, as those of you who've read the lore know, that's kind of where all of Satoshi's followers live, right? And so the defenders of Fiat, rather than doing their own dirty work, enlist the help of, I won't say how many gangs, but a few different gangs and the first of which is the Shizoku. The Shizoku are, you know, a kind of continuation and a play, you know, modern cyberpunky play on cyberpunk. Play on like the Yakuza, and they will be kind of a Japanese-inspired game with some really cool. You know, we've got some really cool art for these bad guys that you're not going to see it in here yet, but that'll be coming in quite soon. I think we released the concept art on Twitter a week ago of one of the bad guys on that, but we were actually quite progressed with those character designs. So you'll start to see those as we do those prototype reviews. What you'll see is that this area is actually a Shizoku area. And so you see the graffiti on the walls, the coloring, different things indicate that it's a Shizoku area. And the goal, at least within this first iteration of the alpha, will be to defeat the Shizoku, who are going to be there with the Defenders of Fiat. So you'll be fighting against both Shizoku bad guys and Defenders of Fiat bad guys, and then you'll ultimately fight the gang leader, which we won't talk about yet because I don't have spoilers, and so you'll have to figure that out for yourself. But when you release, you will fight her, the leader of the Shizoku. And so that's all I'll say from a lore perspective on that. But what you'll see is that these kind of anonymous bad guys are going to start to turn into Shizoku characters. They're placeholders for the Shizoku characters. What were you saying, Josh? Sorry.
I just said you said she. So you dropped.
I said her. Yeah. That's all. That's the only leak. That's all I'm giving. Oh, I lost you, Josh. I lost your sound.
You can't hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah. So there's gonna be some cool stuff. So, let's see. What do we got? We've got. I want to answer some more of your questions. Unless Josh, there was something you wanted to show or point out. So actually, we've been flying through the time. So I want to make sure I get at least the questions that people put in the Discord.
Answer your question.
All right. So Excalibur had a really long question. No, it was a good, well put together statement and a couple questions built in there. So I will hit the questions. So one of the questions was, I want to know how the game's world would function as a metaverse. So that is it's a good question. It's a kind of difficult, one to explain without like pouring out my version of a verbal white paper. But like big picture, when we say Satoshi verse, at least in my mind, the verse kind of comes, at least from the beginning, from universe than it does from metaverse. And so while we are building within the metaverse, and we are planning on building metaverse experiences, and there will be metaverse type gamified experiences within the Satoshi verse, the idea of the Satoshi verse kind of meta, right, like high level, is to be the next big superhero universe for the blockchain. So when you think, Marvel Cinematic Universe, DC Universe, like these are universes of different IPs coming together within this kind of superhero theme, developing a world within which there's a million things that can happen. So we're building out the Satoshiverse as the core theme is this blockchain-based, dystopian future where, there's this conflict between kind of the old guard and those who support blockchain technology, and really some of the themes that resonate within that. And we're building out superheroes, right? Satoshi, we have agents, we have mercenaries, we have an army who are functioning within that universe and could develop their own stories and really function within it. But the goal is to, from the verse perspective, to build out a universe of different experiences all under the same IP. And I think that, but when we talk about the game and the metaverse itself, the game's going to feel more like a more arcadey than it will like kind of your metaverses, like if you jump into Decentraland, right? This game's going to be like constant running around, killing things, fighting, getting rewards, looking for stuff, finding stuff. At least the core conception of what we're building with Satoshi's Legion is going to be a battle type action experience. That said, the idea is for these things, and I think one of the cool things about NFTs and blockchain is that it can function within a broader ecosystem. And so we certainly started building out metaverse experiences, right? We have our headquarters in Decentraland. We're talking to other metaverses about, and really seeing, okay, what are going to be the sets of tools that people use to build out metaverse experiences, and what are going to be the prevailing metaverses within which we can build these experiences. And it may, and it very well likely will, be that we build out some of these experiences, these metaverse experiences, on our own and build using our own platforms. But, within kind of the umbrella of the Satoshiverse, Satoshi's Legions is kind of the first step of building a game that encompasses lore elements and tells a little bit of the story and pits you up against the defenders of fiat, and it functions as a part within that universe. Just like you might have an Avengers game that the Marvel Cinematic Universe produces, but then who knows, one day you might have a movie, you might have comic series, you might have collectibles and toys and all that stuff. That's the idea. The idea is to build out this kind of world of IP that can function within tons of different experiences, and what experiences we create will depend again a lot on what you guys tell us. What is it that we want to consume? Where is it that we'd like to see the IP go? And so we're building this game as kind of the first iteration. The broader, high level macro, the vision is that this truly becomes a universe of interconnected parts within the metaverse and within kind of this both physical and digital. I don't think this needs to be limited to the NFT space. Like we really hope that this will become something bigger than that, and that's going to involve partnerships, it's going to involve licensing, it's going to involve not just us developing things, but one of the beautiful things about building great IP is that you can leverage the resources that other people are spending tons of times building the rail, and you kind of apply it to your own IP and what we're building as a community, and that accelerates the experiences that we can provide. So hopefully that answers that first part of the question. So I think you said I would also love a deep dive into the gameplay structure and experience for the player on a macro level. And so Josh just kind of said this a little bit earlier in the chat, so I'm not going to go too deep into this one, but it's really, in terms of Satoshi's Legions, this game that we're developing, there's two games, I would put it. There's the game you play when you're in the game, right? You're playing the game, you're killing bad guys, you're getting experience, you're leveling up your avatar, you're finding items, you're doing all the things that you would expect to do in a really cool, action roguelike RPG, right? Where we're building this kind of hybrid system where you're always playing through these programmatically generated mazes and fighting, right? So it's a fighting game. But then there's kind of the macro game, which is the player economy. And I think, one of the things we're really trying to get right is the balance between those two things. And so, what we've talked a lot about our inspiration, games like Diablo, games like World of Warcraft, games like RuneScape. What those games do really well, even beyond just creating a good story and a good game, is that there's this really well-established player economy and macro game that they put a lot of thought into. Okay, this is how this is all going to work. And I think that, that there it has to be both, right? For there to be a successful blockchain game, the game itself has to be fun. People have to want to play it. But at the same time, you really need to have something that's incorporating the blockchain components, the NFTs, something where you're actually making something meaningful through Web3. And that's where I think decentralizing player economies and our player economy is where we're going to make the most, headway there. And so hopefully hopefully that answers your question. And feel free to follow up. I know you're currently in the Twitch stream. And then there was a question by Lee Berger in the Discord, and it was actually more of a suggestion, and based on something we said yesterday about if you're worried about having crazy amounts of items drop, make the in-game drops equivalent to just in-game items that could later be refined and merged in order to create a mintable using whatever method is decided, crystals or whatnot. And then, basically saying to reduce the amount of NFTs that are dropped, and only the rarest items should be dropped. So that's a great suggestion, and it is what we're doing. What you'll see is that this isn't going to be the type of game where things are dropping all the time, right? There's going to be a playthrough where you clear the levels, and at the end of the level you'll be able to get certain rewards, and even then it's not like you're going to get 20 NFTs every time you play. NFTs are going to be rare, and you're going to, when you get these resources, you're going to be like, wow, okay, this is actually something I need or I want. I've been working to get it, and it's going to be significant, because we want that kind of sustainability of having the NFTs be something significant, so that there is scarcity, so that there is kind of a maintainable ecosystem where things that you get have a purpose, and you want to use them, and you're getting them at a time where it makes sense to use them, and they don't become obsolete. And so that's a lot of balancing there, right? You have to really think about that experience and progression. And so that's definitely something we're spending a lot of time working on. Beyond that, there are, however, in-game progression, right? There is the experience that you're getting on your avatar. That's more frequent. There is something that's going to be called training points, or it may be called something else, but right now we're calling it training points. That will allow you to open up new possibilities within the game, whether that's new items or new abilities or whatever it is. That's an in-game resource. You're going to have something that we're referring to as energy, which will allow you to get temporary power-ups within your runs, and that will allow you to progress further and beat the harder enemies, which in turn will give you a better chance of getting the NFTs. So there is kind of this scaling ecosystem, like you were suggesting, Lee, of in-game progression and drops and fines and rewards, really in-game rewards, and then NFT rewards, which are much more scarce and much more difficult to attain. And I think that will scale really well. That's what we think is that you need that so that you can scale it, so that when this game is fully baked and you have hopefully 100,000, 200,000 players playing it every day, you don't just have this massive influx of NFTs hitting the market. There's still something that as you play, it gets progressively harder to find them, and all that. So we definitely have tokenomics and the scarcity models in mind, and the player economy in mind. I think at our core, though, that only works if you build a great game. And so right now what we're doing is we're really focused on building a great game. We're focused on conceptualizing a lot of the economic theory for the game and starting to test that. But for this first iteration, our goal is to put together just a good experience that you guys can test and come back to us with really, valuable feedback that we can incorporate to make the game even better, because we think that, you all know our project as good as we do, and have been a part of it for so long, that we really, your feedback is so valuable and so important to us that we want to garner it. We want to bring it in. We want to have it. So keep an eye out, and we're getting towards the end of the block, but keep an eye out to the next couple weeks and month for us to be starting some forums for getting community feedback, and we'll start to have some ways that you guys can get involved if you want to. If not, totally fine. Hang out, sit on the sidelines, and see what we get. I guess I would be remiss to not say that this is obviously a slower time for the NFT market more generally. We're obviously aware of that, and we're using this time to build we're confident in what we're doing, and everything is going according to plan. So obviously there's no worries there on the development side. But we are consistently still trying to grow, right? And we're trying to do so organically. And so I want to say just kind of personally that when we're doing incentives and everything for people to participate, when we have Twitter Spaces and we have guests, it really does mean a ton when people show up, because it really helps us to solidify those relationships with partners and bring people in and show people that the Satoshiverse is a really great place to be, and it's a place that projects and people will want to be in. I know you all believe that, but it's great to see all of you in the Discord always being happy and supportive. We definitely appreciate that. It's great to see people showing up to these live streams, the Twitter Spaces. We'll continue to find ways to reward you all for doing so, but we understand that your time is valuable, and we really do appreciate you being here and giving us feedback, because it helps us a lot to build something really cool for all of you guys. So, okay, my voice is gone. Josh, take it away if there's anything else you want to say, but otherwise we'll start to wrap it up.
All right, I think you said a lot.
Oh wow, you're getting swarmed. Don't die.
But yeah, more and more stuff's going to come in, so and more quickly from like a visual element. Like we mentioned, a lot of these system layers have been finished up, and now we're starting to apply them. And can't wait to get it in you guys' hands.
All right, more and more each time. Next time we'll see you guys. Hopefully we'll have some really cool stuff to show you again.
Is that it? Goodbye, everybody.
That's it, yeah.
Thank you for
Until
joining
next
us.
time. Feel free to ask questions you have in the Discord, but otherwise, talk soon.
Frank Fazor out.